This is going to be an example of option H, which is used to determine how far a horn's sound can reach based on the ambient noise level of an area. Obviously, the louder the area, the less reach you get from a horn. And before we get into option H, I just want to show you some terms here. You mount a horn, in this example the horn is mounted 20 feet high, and you're not concerned with what the sound level is going to be 20 feet below it, because that would be on the ground. You're concerned with what the sound level will be at a distanced angle at 5 feet above the floor, which is the average listener's ear level. This is what we use for the average listener's ear level. So all our calculations are based on 5 feet above the floor. Okay, so if a horn is mounted 20 feet high, there's two things that we're concerned with. One, there's a minimum dB over the ambient. At this angled distance, right here, we want no less than 6 dB above the ambient. The sound level from this horn at this distance has to be at least 6 dB above whatever our ambient noise level is, and that's for good intelligibility of voice paging. The second issue is we want no more than 26.86 dB over the ambient, and that is measured directly beneath the horn. This is the shortest distance to the floor from the horn. So the sound level here can be no more than, actually it's 20.86 dB above the ambient. But we calculate for 26.86 because the horn will be angled and you'll lose 6 dB at the dispersion angle. Okay, so a couple of things we need to calculate. We need to take into account the room noise and the mounting height. We need to determine what's the loudest the horn can be. Okay, in our example it's going to be 113.34 dB at 4 feet. And that loudest the horn can be is going to be based upon this value here. You know, if it's turned up above 113, you'll have more than 26 dB above the ambient here. Okay, so now we'll go to option H. I'll select H, and I'm going to press Enter to scroll through the first few screens. And I'll put in the 20-foot mounting height that we were using in our example, and the 75 dB ambient noise level. We're designing for no more than 26.86 dB above the ambient, and no less than 6 dB above the ambient. And notice the program calculated based on our maximum value and our mounting height. It calculated the horn can put out no more than 113.34.06 dB SPL. If it did, we'd have more than 26.86 dB above the ambient directly beneath the horn. Alright, so we accept this default. This is just a calculation it did to determine the maximum horn volume that will be suitable for this area. And press Enter. And based on that maximum dB SPL level and that mounting height, it's now doing the calculations at that angle distance, which I'll show you at this distance. We know the horn's putting out 113.34 dB. It's calculating what's the maximum distance I can have here for no less than 6 dB above the ambient. And it's calculated that that distance is 164.93 feet, horizontal feet. Okay, horizontal feet being this, horizontal feet, as opposed to line of sight feet. Okay, so 164.93 horizontal feet in front of the horn. This is the line of sight distance. Notice in this case it's very close. It's not always. But what this is saying is if the horn is putting out 113.34 dB at 4 feet and is mounted 20 feet high, and the horn will be angled at almost 5.2 degrees from the ceiling, then the dB at 164.93 horizontal feet in front of the horn will be 81 dB, and that is indeed 6 dB over our ambient noise level. If we increase the mounting height, you'll notice that this value right here will increase, because now you're moving away from the people. You can turn the horn up louder without exceeding the maximum 26.86 dB over the ambient. So actually mounting the horn higher may give you more coverage. So if we press B and change our mounting height now to 25 feet, and notice that the acceptable output level from the horn is now 115.8 instead of 113.34. And indeed, we do get more thrill from the horn. By moving it up higher, we can turn it up louder without it appearing too loud to people directly beneath, and because the horn is louder, you get more distance out of the horn. This does not take into account our suggested maximums. Obviously, for 75 dB inside, you wouldn't put horns 219 feet apart because of room acoustics and such. But for outside areas, you could probably get away with this. And that's the end of our example.